wonderful to be together again. And I don't know about you, but I'm really enjoying the Zoom services. And it's such a great opportunity to fellowship with brothers sisters from different corners of Chennai. And if the lockdown was not there, I'm sure we would not be together as a group because geographically it is going to be challenging to do that. But here we have people from Acharapakkam, Mahindra World City, OMR, Madhavaram, all ends of Chennai, and it's wonderful to be together. And today message is a continuation of what was done a few weeks back. So I just want to do a little recap of what we did a few weeks ago. Just share that on the screen. Okay, so we saw about the stewardship of time a few weeks ago, and in that we saw about how our time is limited on earth and how we have to use our time appropriately to have a greater impact. We come with nothing, we go with nothing, but what we do with our lives can create a great impact in the future. So this is what we saw last time. We have limited amount of time. Okay. Second, 86,400 seconds per day. Time is fixed. How we utilize it is up to us. What will we leave behind could be inheritance in terms of what we pass on in terms of wealth, and legacy, which is what we invest in people. And we talked about creating a lasting legacy. We learned about that. We talked about passing the baton. We saw about the legacy of Jonathan Edwards and Max Jukes. And we saw about how a great legacy is a blessing from God. We saw about Abraham, Phineas, and David, and how, because God blessed their legacy, they had amazing generations and amazing legacy that happened after them. And if you remember what God told David in 2 Samuel 7 verse 11, the Lord declares to you that the Lord himself will establish a house for you. And further, verse 16, your house and your kingdom will endure forever before me. Your throne will be established forever. So God had made that decision, and God chose to bless David. So we're going to look further today on the same theme and the same topic, and we're going to learn further from the Old Testament, and we're going to learn about some legacies. Study about legacies from the Old Testament. So we're going to study about the legacy of kings, that the descendants of David, and about a worship leader. And here's a little guideline for today's session. We're going to study this together, so I'd like you all to participate. So there will be times when you can discuss and participate, so do unmute and share. And also when we come to the end of the message, we can all conclude together. So do share again, what are the things that we could pick up from today's session. And focus on listening. There will be a lot of things coming on the screen. You may not be able to read everything, but that's just to give a structure, and just focus on listening more, because if you just focus on reading, you may be a little stressed out. So don't do that. Just focus on listening. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about is legacy of kings. And we know about the first king of Israel was Saul, and after that David was the next king. Saul was rejected as a king, and then David was chosen as a king, and then we know that David's son Solomon was the next in line. So at this time, perhaps we can have a little discussion about what is some things that you know are the highlights about David, and what are some of the highlights that you know about Solomon. So would anybody like to share? Please unmute yourself and share some things. These pictures also depict about these two kings. Anybody would like to share? What was David known for, and what is Solomon known for? I'm sure you all are familiar, right? Anybody? Yes?
Yeah, David was a great king. He was a great warrior, and Solomon built God's temple.
Right. Wonderful. Any other things?
Bro, man
David
out of
was
God's
a
own
shepherd
heart.
boy, and Solomon was the wisest man on the earth.
Yes, David shepherd boy, Solomon wisest person. Yes, anything else? Nilesh, you are saying something?
David was known as a man from God's own heart, and Solomon was definitely known for his wisdom.
Exactly.
Yeah, what I feel is that David rose from as a normal person, from the low level he rose up, but Solomon just inherited whatever David brought up, so it was easy for him.
Yes, yes, exactly. You know, that's another great point. You know, David came from a shepherd boy, poor background, but Solomon inherited a lot of things from David. Yes, wonderful. Anything else? Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So here I put down a few things. I'm sure we can all add to that. So one more thing, you know, David was a musician. He wrote the Psalms. What did Solomon write? He wrote the Proverbs, the book of Ecclesiastes, and the Song of Songs. And like somebody said, no, David is mentioned as a man after God's own heart. Solomon is known as the wisest and one of the richest person who ever lived. David planned the temple. Solomon constructed the temple, and a lot of things. I'm sure a lot more things we can put down. Also, Solomon was named by God actually as Jedidiah. So the Lord named him Jedidiah, and what that means is beloved of the Lord. So that's amazing, you know, that, you know, just imagine you having a christening of the child, and God, you know, they named him Solomon, but God also gave a name. That's so amazing, you know. And what was God's name? Beloved of the Lord, Jedidiah. You know, that's how much, you know, God loved this little boy when he was born. And we also know about a time when Solomon was asked, what do you want? You know, God asked him, and he said, give me wisdom to rule your people well. And God gave him great wisdom. And also God said he would give him riches and honor, so that there would be not any among the kings like you all your days. But there was a condition: if you walk in my ways, keeping my commandments and laws. And then what happened? Now here we can see a depiction of what all Solomon had. You know, Solomon owned a large palace. You know, he took even more time to build this palace. He had huge quantities of food and livestock. He had 12,000 horses. You know, lots of gold, lots of valuable things, a fleet of trading ships. His throne was made of ivory and gold. And it says in 1 Kings 10:27 that Solomon is so wealthy that he makes silver as common as stones. Can you imagine that? You know, that's how much of richness and splendor was there at the time of Solomon in Israel. But, you know, let's talk about Solomon's disobedience. See, most of the time people talk about Solomon's wisdom. But Solomon's disobedience, not many know about or not many talk about. So what did Solomon disobey? What was he supposed to obey? So to understand that, we have to go way back to the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 17, 14 to 20. And this is an instruction God gave through Moses way before Israel ever had any king. And what was the instruction? That if there is going to be a king, the king shall not multiply horses for himself, nor shall he cause the people to return to Egypt to multiply horses, neither shall he multiply wives for himself, lest his heart turn away, nor shall he greatly multiply silver and gold. Very specific instructions. And you can see that Solomon disobeyed all this. A clause in this law required the king to write his own copy of it, keep it near at hand, and read it every day. Somehow Solomon neglected this requirement, and he began to do exactly what the law said he should not. In fact, when Solomon was born, Nathan was around. Nathan was the one who challenged David when David was in sin. But obviously, Nathan would have become later old, and as Solomon grew, maybe Nathan was no longer there. Nobody was there to perhaps tell him and guide him. And this particular instructions, Solomon failed to know, or he failed to obey. In these last days, we must also pay closer attention to what we heard, lest we drift away. This is something that is mentioned in the New Testament. So what happened with Solomon? He started well. He was loved by God. He only wanted wisdom. He didn't want riches. But then later he drifted away. How much more should we be careful then? Solomon accumulated chariots and horses. He had 14,000 chariots, 12,000 horses. Silver was as common as stone in Jerusalem. Solomon's horses were imported from Egypt. He had a chariot which was imported from Egypt for 600 shekels of silver and a horse for 150. So this Israel, the nation which was in slavery in Egypt, and Moses had led them out of there, and now eventually they become a great nation. David had established Jerusalem and Israel, and Solomon has built the temple. All that has happened, and now what's he doing? He's going back to the same Egypt and getting chariots from there and horses from there. Again, instructions were given not to go back or not to envy or covet the things of Egypt. Also, King Solomon loved many foreign wives besides Pharaoh's daughter. Can you imagine that? The Egypt king's daughter he married. What was the instruction? You must not intermarry with others, because they will surely turn your hearts after their gods. Solomon completely disobeyed all these instructions. He had 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines, and his wives led him astray, just like it was predicted. And what does the Bible say? The Lord was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice. We find God saying to Solomon, I will tear the kingdom away from you. Now, the same God we saw in the beginning had blessed David, now gets so angry and so upset that he says, I will tear the kingdom away from you. Why? Because of Solomon's disobedience. In consequence, the kingdom became divided into two kingdoms. Solomon's house retained the smaller part of the kingdom. So this here is a depiction of the list of the kings of Israel. And if you see over here, most of them in their faith were evil. They were, not worshipping God, but they were worshipping idols and what the other nations around them are doing. So you can see how completely these people, these descendants, they were completely away from God, because the leaders themselves, the kings themselves, were misleading them. And then 722 BC, they were all taken captive. God handed them over to Assyria, and they were taken in slavery over there. So they were brought out from slavery from Egypt, and now out of disobedience, because of their disobedience started by Solomon and then by these further kings here, they were all handed over to Assyria. And this is the kingdom of Judah. So this is Solomon's son Rehoboam and Rehoboam, and we see how they were doing in their devotion towards God. So 8 turned out to be relatively good, 11 were relatively bad in their relationship with God. They ruled for different amounts of times. You can see that here. But because of God's promise to David, this line survived. So this line, this line of descendants, this legacy of David survived, and eventually this nation was also handed over to Babylonian captivity in 586 BC. And after that, after 70 years, again, the exiles came back, and eventually we know from this lineage is, eventually Jesus is born, and we are all blessed because of, God's mercy and God's promise that happened through the legacy of David. So this was what God promised: your house and your kingdom will endure forever before me. Your throne will be established forever. So in spite of Solomon's disobedience, so I don't know whether we should remember Solomon more for his wisdom or more for his disobedience. His disobedience caused havoc. Israel, that so many kings, so many generations suffered because of his drifting away from God. I don't know whether we should call him the wisest person or the wifest person. He was full of so many wives, which distracted him from his devotion from God. Maybe each one of us can conclude what we should learn from Solomon. So this is a legacy of kings that we could learn from today. Second, we are going to learn from the legacy of a worship leader. So we don't hear much of worship leaders in the Bible, but there's one outstanding worship leader. Guess who this worship leader is? Anybody wants to take a guess of an outstanding worship leader?
Jesus.
Jesus in the New Testament, in the Old Testament time?
Isaiah.
Isaiah is a prophet. Anybody else? Sorry? So, sorry? So, worship was instituted in the temple, planned for by David, and who was the person appointed? That person, one of the persons appointed for worship was Asaph. And we're going to see now about the legacy of this person, Asaph. There are not many stories about Asaph in the Bible. I think not even one story. See, we like to hear stories. Now, we know the stories of David, the stories about Solomon, but there's no story about Asaph. But we'll have to go into the scriptures and look at the references about Asaph to understand a little bit more about him. So the first mention of Asaph is in 1 Chronicles 6 verse 39, and it talks about Asaph is a descendant of Levi. So who was he? He's a Levite. Who are the Levites? They were supposed to assist the priests. Okay, further, 1 Chronicles 15, 16 to 19. And like I said, we have a lot of text now on the screen. If you like, you can note down the scriptures, read it later. But just focus on the point that we're trying to focus on. So 1 Chronicles 15, 16 to 19 talks about that Asaph was appointed as a musician. So David told the leaders of the Levites to appoint their fellow Levites as musicians to make a joyful sound with musical instruments. What are the instruments? Lyres, harps, and cymbals. So who were appointed? Among those appointed was this person, Asaph. So, and what were they doing? The musicians, Heman, Asaph, and Ethan, were to sound the bronze cymbal. So this is the cymbal, right? We have all probably familiar with the cymbal. Not a very popular instrument these days, I guess. Maybe the drummers use it. But in the olden days, Asaph was appointed, and his instrument was the bronze cymbal. He was eventually promoted to be the chief musician. First Chronicles 16 verse 5 says Asaph was the chief, and next to him in rank were the others. And then it talks about verse 7 further. David first appointed Asaph and his associates to give praise to the Lord in this manner. So David was the one who appointed Asaph as the chief musician, or maybe the chief worship leader as well. Now, what did they do? David, First Chronicles 25, 1-6 talks about David together with the commanders of the army set apart some of the sons of Asaph, Heman, and Jeduthun for the ministry of prophesying, accompanied by harps, lyres, and cymbals. So these people were set aside for this purpose, and these were the sons of Asaph, Heman, and Jeduthun. And it says who were the sons and who was supervising them. It says here in verse 2 that the sons of Asaph were under the supervision of Asaph. Okay. And further, the others similarly were under the supervision of their own fathers. So these musicians, these leaders were to supervise their sons to do the same work. What is the work? To thank and praise the Lord using these instruments. So for the year, First Chronicles 25, 4-6, verse 6 says, all these men were under the supervision of their fathers for the music of the temple of the Lord, with the cymbals, lyres, and harps for the ministry at the house of God. So it was a family thing. See, in the family, they were getting trained, and the fathers were supervising the children. Now let's go back to book of Numbers, Numbers 8, 23-26. And like I said, the Asaph was a Levite. And here's an instruction for the Levites. The Lord said to Moses, this applies to the Levites. Men 25 years old or more shall come to take part in the work at the tent of meeting. But at the age of 50, they must retire from the regular service and work no longer. They must assist their brothers in performing their duties at the tent of meeting, but they themselves must not do the work. This then is how you are to assign the responsibilities of the Levites. So what is the instruction? From the age of 25 to the age of 50, they are to serve. And after the age of 50, they are to work no longer, but they have to mentor and support the other younger ones. So that means these fathers were supervising their children who were 25 years, perhaps, or maybe from a younger age itself. They were supervising them, preparing them. And from the age of 25, the next generation would start taking care of the work. And at the age of 50, the older generation would retire. So they would pass the baton. And I'm sure 50 is, in like today's day, we feel it's not very young. So they still had many years to supervise and mentor the next generation. So this was specific direction to the Levites. Asaph is a Levite, so we can imagine that he was following these instructions. So according to a scholar, Asaph and his sons and grandsons and great-grandsons and down the line knew the Lord and followed the Lord, serving him faithfully in worship and praise and prophecy. Okay. Now, this is something we need to again think about, when we compare David and Solomon. See, David knew the Lord, and David wrote the Psalms. And David shares about his relationship with God, which we could see is been very consistent throughout most of his life. Whereas Solomon, twice the Lord appeared to him, but we don't see him having a great relationship constantly, like David. So he wrote Proverbs, a lot of observations about what people are doing and, what works and what doesn't work. But when you look at David and Solomon, David had a close relationship with the Lord. Solomon drifted away from the Lord. Asaph, what do we see? Knew the Lord and he passed it down the line. Let's see how that happened. After David, the temple was constructed, dedication of the temple happened. Who were there at that time? All the Levites who were musicians, Asaph, Heman, Jeduthun, and their sons and relatives stood. And, they were there worshiping. What were they singing? That they were praising the Lord and sang, He is good, His love endures forever. So this is a time when the dedication of the temple took place. 100 years later, during the reign of King Jehoshaphat, let's look what happened. A vast army came against the nation. Then Jehoshaphat stood up in the assembly of Judah and Jerusalem at the temple of the Lord in the front of the new courtyard. They were worried there, but then what happens? Verse 14, 2 Chronicles 20, verse 14. Then the Spirit of the Lord came on Jehaziel, son of Zechariah, the son of Bepiah, the son of Jael, the son of Mattaniah, a Levite and descendant of Asaph, as he stood in the assembly. So what happens? The Spirit of the Lord comes on one of the descendants of Asaph, and they start worshipping. So what happened? After consulting the people, Jehoshaphat appointed men to sing to the Lord and to praise him for the splendor of his holiness, as they went out at the head of the army, saying, after consulting the people, I'm sure these descendants of Asaph had a voice. And what were they singing? Give thanks to the Lord, for his love endures forever. The same thing. And as they began to sing and praise, the Lord set ambushes against the men of all those enemies. And those enemies helped to destroy one another. Significant role played by the descendants of Asaph. That is 100 years later. 140 years later, 2 Chronicles 29 verse 13 talks about the descendants of Asaph again. Then 80 years later, during the reign of Josiah. So what would happen? Some kings would be obedient to God. Some kings would be disobedient to God. Some, sons would do totally opposite of what the parents did, just to be different, like sometimes how our political parties do when they come into power. So some would be worshipping God. Some will be totally going away into idolatry. All that was happening in the descendants of those kings of Judah. But then now we are looking at the reign of Josiah, and there was this time in 2 Chronicles 35 verse 15 talks about the musicians, the descendants of Asaph were in the places prescribed by David, Asaph, Heman, and Jeduthun, the king's seer. So even after so many years, these descendants of Asaph were doing what they were supposed to do. And then what happens? 70 years of exile takes place. They are taken away into Babylon. The people of Judah are taken away into exile. And then Ezra comes back. Who's there along with Ezra? Ezra chapter 2 verse 41 talk about the musicians, the descendants of Asaph were there again. Then after Ezra, in the book of Nehemiah comes to build the wall. Nehemiah 12 verse 35 talks about the time of worship happens, and who's there is the son of Asaph, along with their musical instruments to praise the Lord. So the legacy of Asaph lived for 10 generations and more. Asaph is also mentioned to be the author of 12 Psalms. In the end, we'll look at one of the Psalms written by Asaph, Psalm 78, verses 4 to 6. And it's mentioned there that we will not hide them from their descendants. We will tell the next generation the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, his power and the wonders he has done. He decreed statutes for Jacob and established the law in Israel, which he commanded our ancestors to teach their children, so the next generation would know them, even the children yet to be born, and they in turn would tell their children. It is mentioned in Psalm 78, written by Asaph. And what do we know about Asaph? He practiced this. He practiced what he wrote. And his own family did this, and we can see the evidence of this in the scriptures that we saw so far. So what do we conclude today? So brothers and sisters, at this time we can have a little bit of sharing. Do unmute yourself, and let's have some sharing about what we can learn from this legacy of kings and the legacy of this worship leader. Anybody would like
Hi,
to share?
John.
Yes, Ashok.
Man, intense message. Anyway, I was sitting in between my son and my daughter. Sorry, my son and my wife. Sorry, wife is like daughter. Of course, different response. My wife was totally loving it. My son was like a history book lesson, Dad, you know. But this is awesome stuff. And me and my wife are sitting and talking the kind of depth and analysis you brought out. And the way, I mean, of course, so much debate we both have about David and Solomon, me and my wife. And yet, just the worship leaders' lineage just blew our minds away. Oh man, it is all about not my knowledge, not my, you know, or what I mean, whatever my leadership, this and that. It is just connecting with my God. That's what worship does, and that is something really has an impact on children when they see parents who they'll say, you know, connected, devoted, worshiping. That passes on very powerfully across generation, and also the aspect of what do you say, raising up people, right? There is a point here. If I'm a leader, I got to know my retirement age and start mentoring the next guy years ahead. And, you know, that's so well, you know, it's been practiced. I think initial days when the missionaries came and led our churches, it's always about who is next. I think from the street, when I was studying the Bible itself, there was a plan for me. I'm like, I'm not understanding. What are they talking to me? I'm just studying the Bible, but there's a dream to raise up people. And I remember more talking to me. One day I showed people like you will be responsible for taking care of, we will be going. And stuff like that. I think we need to start talking to the younger generation. Hey, main buddha ho gaya, ho jata hai. Then a next level, you know, that ownership is something awesome inside, bro. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Amen.
Yeah, thank you,
John,
Ashok.
whether I also share in what I learned.
Yes,
little
please.
bit-
We do have about 10 minutes to share, so I'd like as many people to participate so we all can conclude many things. So do
I know.
participate. Go ahead, Malan.
As Ashok said, I always like the character David. And in fact, actually, I'm reading that right now, you know, Solomon. And it's a little depressing after Solomon when you start reading the Bible, the division and so many things that is happening. That's what I'm reading right now, present Bible study. But what really, you know, what the kind of vision that you gave through the worship leader, the responsibility what we have in our life, you know, how God has beautifully set it out even in those years. And I'm sure I'm going to be reading that because presently I'm reading First Kings. And, you know, the way how we have to carry the lineage, that is so amazing and mind-blowing, and appreciate the hard work that you put in to really bring out so many scriptures, because it makes me to understand the responsibility I carry, you know, I have towards my children, and even towards the people whom I serve. You know, what is that I have to teach and I have to learn, and how I have to teach. Because I remember coming from a Christian family, and I think my mom always used to teach me, Malar, whenever sitting, walking, you know, or lying down, she would tell me she would mention the Deuteronomy verse, and she would say, she would keep repeating me about God's verses to me. And I understand today, if I am what I am, I think my mom has played an important role. And I realized the important role that I have to play in my children's life. Thank you so much for giving this beautiful, visionary message.
Thank you.
With longer vision.
John,
Thank you,
John, I
Malan.
would like to share quickly. Thank you
Yes.
so much for the great effort. Two things I see. One, Both of them are sinners, like both David and Solomon. Even Solomon was a murderer, worse than David. But one thing stands apart is he had a great relationship with God. He just went back to God again and again. That is something which I learned. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Yeah, one thing we can see is that, there's a greater consistency in relationship with God which David had, and that's all there in the Psalms. And same again, now who's the other one who wrote Psalms is Asaph, and he can also, again, we can see a greater relationship with God happening there. And another aspect is that, David perhaps did not spend as much time with Solomon as Asaph spent with his sons. And that also is something we can see a difference there. Anybody else want to add?
Yeah, John,
Yes, Eddie.
as you're preaching, I was just remembering my, my grandfather was a priest. He was a missionary. That's my mom's dad. And my grandfather's father was a missionary.
Wow.
And then they wanted me to become a priest. That was my grandfather's dream. Same way with my dad. My dad's father was a missionary in Bombay. He was an instrument in starting the Church of South India in Mumbai. And his father was also a missionary. So I was just thinking, just remembered, so even I'm coming from that from that generation. But now, after me, who it is? From that day, the message that you did 3-4 last month, I was thinking, it was so convicting. After me, I was just praying to God, and I wish, I pray that, after me, my child takes the, forward, to reach out to people, to reach out to the poor, to reach out to, the people, to bring, them close to God. It's so convicting to see, and it's so, amazing. And it's so important for us to teach our children and children's children. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eddie. Anybody else? One of the things that happened was, David instructed the fathers to be supervising the children in this worship. So by default, maybe not intentionally, but unintentionally, he set them up in a beautiful way. So they were having worship, they had supervision, they're having devotions daily in their family, perhaps, so we can see the amazing impact of that has happened. So I can see the importance of consistently having family devotions and how powerful that is. Anybody else would like to add? Otherwise, last maybe 2-3 minutes. Okay, so we will go ahead and let me just share a concluding slide, and then we go to a song before we close out. Okay, so let me just share last slide. So what can we learn? Another thing is, Solomon pursued riches, and sometimes we can also get distracted. Solomon was a trillionaire. Apparently, his net worth was $2 trillion present worth, and just in comparison, Jeff Bezos, richest man now, is about $200 billion. So 1 trillion is 1,000 billions. So you can see how much way ahead of Bezos Solomon was. And God blessed, gave him that of all those blessings, but he got messed up. He got distracted, and drifted away from God. So let's be careful in the pursuit of wealth as well. So who do we want to imitate? David, we can imitate his consistent relationship with God. You want to be like Solomon, the wisest man, or perhaps the wisest man, the person with the largest number of wives. We can listen to him, all his wise advice, but we should not follow him. Asaph had a deep impact of focused, consistent, and deep devotion. And we can see how many generations were impacted by Asaph. So at the end,